You taking me to school again?
Uh-huh, and picking you up.
Daddy.
2 planes have crashed into the World Trade Center, and an armed terrorist attack.
What is that, a part of some drill?
Ain't no drill.
19 men attacked our country. The 12 of you will be the first ones to fight back.
How do you love your family and leave them to go to war?
I have 2 hours. I'll be really quick.
Not a chance. Holding out is the only way I can guarantee you come back to me.
War's gonna be over in like a week.
I don't care how long you're gone, as long as you come back.
You got 1, 2, 3, 4!
Every step we take is gonna be on a minefield from 100 different wars.
Odds are we're not all gonna make it out of this one.
If we don't take that city, World Trade Center's just the beginning. We're teaming up with the general of the Northern Alliance that we know nothing about. General, you show me exactly where we're going.
Over the mountains. We take horses.
All right, who's ridden before? Anyone?
Summer camp when I was 9.
Spring break, but I was pretty hammered. Does it have a name? The name! Great, this will be fun. We're outnumbered. 50,000 Taliban and Al-Qaeda fighters. We're on our own. I can't order anyone to do this. Do you want to surrender? Keep your finger on the trigger. Stay there.
Oh, God.
Well, I won't back down.
There's no playbook here. We're gonna have to write it ourselves.
No, I won't back down.
I ain't losing one man on this team.
You could stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down.
We're fighting with horsemen against tanks.
The greatest weapon in history is this.
There ain't no easy way out.
If you die, that's a letter you and your wife are gonna wish you wrote.
I made her a promise. I'm coming home.
Won't back down.
12 Strong, the declassified true story of the horse soldiers.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome KMBC Channel 9 news anchor and longtime MC of the Crime Commission's annual luncheon, Laura Moritz.
Welcome to the 74th Crime Commission Annual Law Enforcement Appreciation Luncheon. Personal courage has long been associated with those wearing the uniform of the United States Armed Forces. It is also strongly associated with law enforcement officers who make life and death decisions as part of their jobs. Today, we are here to salute our finest, all of you, our area law enforcement who are working to keep our families and our neighborhoods safe. We'll hear about the impact of the Crime Commission's core programs, and we'll salute some of our finest community members and law enforcement public servants who have responded to the call of duty to support the mission of public safety. Then we'll hear from our special guest, Major Mark Nutsch, who answered the call when we needed him the most in one of the greatest examples of heroism, bravery, and sacrifice in our nation's history. At this time, please rise for the presentation of colors and the singing of our national anthem. Our colors are presented by the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and our national anthem will be sung by the Homeward Bound Quartet, members of the Heart of America Barbershop Chorus.
Oh, say, can you see
yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the brave.
You may be seated. I just want to tell you that personally, this is truly my most favorite event of the entire year. It gives me a chance to just personally thank each and every one of you for everything that you do. I was raised to respect law enforcement. My dad had been in the Air Force, and my niece is in the Army as of right now. And so I come from a family with deep, deep respect for what you do, and I've carried that through my entire life. I would like to welcome the chairman of the Kansas City Metropolitan Crime Commission Board of Directors, Brad Sprong.
Thank you, Laura, and thanks everybody for being here. It is truly my honor to represent the Crime Commission and our Board of Directors. And to all of you in law enforcement serving and protecting us every single day, thank you. I also want to thank our great Board of Directors of the Crime Commission and all of our programs. If you all could stand and be recognized, that'd be fantastic. Thank you. I feel like I need a box to stand on after a lot of stuff. You know, in 1949, a group of Kansas Cityans got together and realized the community needed to get more involved in fighting crime and began building bridges with law enforcement to help do that. That was the beginning of the Kansas City Crime Commission. And our mission then is the same as it is today, and that's to power a safer Kansas City community. And we all know today that building these bridges is probably more important now than it was then. So really appreciate everybody being here and showing your personal commitment to help build those bridges. I want to thank all of our luncheon sponsors. Without your support, the Crime Commission couldn't do the great work they did. So please help me and recognize our longtime signature sponsor, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and board member Mike McComb. I also want to thank all of our chief table sponsors, Community America Credit Union and Lisa Ginter and Catherine Harville, the Jack F. and Glenna Wiley Charitable Foundation, EPR Properties and board member Greg Silvers, Hallmark and board member Jill Merchant. Yeah, platform, that's good, yeah. J.E. Dunn Construction and board member Tom Whitaker, Lockton and board member Mark Moreland, Canadian Pacific Kansas City and board member Pat Ottensmeyer, Trozzolo Communications Group and board member Pasquale Trozzolo, and former board member Nancy Creasy and the Ems Creasy family. So thanks everybody for your support. Okay, on your tables is the Swords of Lightning book, so that's been autographed by the authors, including our special guest today, Mark Nutsch. This book is a small token of our appreciation. So I don't know if Mitch Holz is still around, but let's have fun today and put the hammer down.
Thank you, Brad. For our invocation, please welcome Tom Langhofer, Resurrection Recovery Ministries pastor.
Good afternoon, almost. This is the third year that I've been honored to be a part of this event. And it's truly an honor, and a privilege for me to be here today among, and you've heard this, the common theme is the honoring a group of people here that risk their lives daily for our community. It's amazing what you do. And I grew up in a family where we respected law enforcement. We just did, and I mean, we just see what you do, the risks that you all take, the sacrifices you make. But because of my family's personal experience, that level of respect has gone to a whole new level. You see, on August 2nd, 2019, my daughter Erin was senselessly shot and killed by a stray bullet at the First Fridays event in the Crossroad District. Changed our lives forever. But we're forever grateful to the law enforcement community, and especially Officers Eric Stubbs and DeAndre Allen, who were true heroes by quickly and bravely apprehending the suspect in an incredibly chaotic environment with thousands of people. We were told that if it wasn't for their heroics, the suspect might never have been caught. So to these individuals and to all of you out here who serve in the law enforcement community, our family is forever grateful for the service you do for our community. Let us pray. God, we give you thanks for being in our presence and being in our lives. We thank you for the people in this room who give tirelessly of their time to be of service, helping, caring for, and protecting others in our community. May we all learn to be as sincere in our efforts to help others as they are. Lord, we all need you in one way or another because life is hard. Life is stressful. Life is challenging. Life is filled with anxiety, especially for people in law enforcement. Give us the strength to take life as it comes and to realize you will see us through all the challenges we face if we turn our burdens over to you. And as always, teach us that even if we can't do great things, we can at least do small things in a great way. We ask that you bless this food and bless us to your service. Amen.
Okay, we are here to celebrate you today, so we want you to enjoy your lunch, and I will be back up and we'll continue our programming, but, have some fun, and, share some laughs, and we'll be back. Please finish your meal, but we are going to resume our program. Throughout all of my years as a board member of the Crime Commission's Crime Stoppers program, I've had the privilege of getting to know an individual who has served our community for 37 years in law enforcement, including his years as Chief of Police in the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department and the Kansas City, Kansas Public School District. Now in his 8th year as the President of the Crime Commission, it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome Rick Armstrong.
Good morning. It's one of my favorite days of the year, not because I like getting up here and speaking in front of a crowd of 800, but because I feel like I'm in a crowd full of friends. I've had the privilege of working with many of you in the professional setting in law enforcement, but also board members, advisory board members, family. It's a great day to be here. Most importantly, what Laura began with, what Brad began with, is our appreciation for law enforcement. I don't have to say to this group of people, it's been a tough road the last 4 or 5 years in law enforcement. The work that you do goes unchecked, goes unreported. Obviously, if there's a mistake or something goes wrong, that catches the news and it gets a lot of coverage. I know that Channel 9 and Laura do a very good job of trying to set that record more balanced, but we're trying to do something about that. We hope to report more about that in the very near future. But for today, enjoy your lunch and enjoy the fact that you're here to be appreciated and accept our profound thanks for what you do. So I would like everyone who's in uniform or not, who's served, currently serving, or has served in law enforcement, please stand and be recognized. think hands down, the Crime Commission's Luncheon is the biggest lunch in Kansas City with this many law enforcement people. So we're pretty excited that you're all here taking time to make time for today. Over the past 74 years, the Crime Commission has worked to establish long-standing relationships with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners. We also work very closely with our business leaders, our media partners, and our entire community. As a nationally recognized nonprofit, we rely not on your tax dollars, but rather on grants, donations, and other special events like today's event that fund the operation of our 4 core programs. Our funding goes right back in the form of services. We're truly a nonprofit. The more funds we raise, the more we're able to direct that back into service to our community. Of those 4 programs, the very first is our Crime Stoppers program, which celebrated its 40th anniversary last year. The Crime Commission Tips Hotline has literally been answering the call for service for more than 40 years, taking tips and helping prevent crime. The Tips Hotline provides a safe and, most importantly, an anonymous way for people to report crime. And although we started our Scholastic Crime Stoppers program in the mid-1990s, in 2016 we began a renewed focus on trying to involve more schools and more children into the program. By 2022, we had 75 high schools, middle schools involved in our program. So in the fall of 2022, we acquired a grant through the Kauffman Foundation, and through that grant, we were able to hire a full-time coordinator to grow our program. Retired Detective Kevin Boehm came back in almost a year ago now, and in this last year, he, working with Christina Lugwood, our detective assigned from KCMOPD, who is the coordinator for the Crime Stopper program, we have built the number of schools from 75 to 142, encompassing most school districts in the metro. I think that deserves an applause for Kevin and Chris. Supported by the Board of Directors of the Crime Commission, a special advisory board within that, the Scholastic Committee. That work continues to be ongoing, and we have more things to report. According to the most recent survey, there's been 245 K through 12 school shootings in the year 2023. And I think that's worth repeating. 245 shootings have occurred so far this year, and that's actually through the month of August. One thing that we've seen firsthand, what helps prevent these tragic events is when students in those schools speak up. Thanks to tips submitted to the Greater Kansas City Scholastic Crime Stopper program, we've had 1 school gun violence incident averted and 19 teen suicides prevented. Please turn your attention to the video board for a special KMBC 9 news story on the Scholastic Tips program.
All we heard was gunshots, everybody was scared.
It's no secret that violence can happen in any school, anywhere. We've seen it over and over again. But what is being kept a secret?
As teenagers, we keep a lot of things in, especially a lot of important things that I don't think we should keep in.
Is what kids know before that violence happens. In a 2021 report by the U.S. Secret Service, it found 81% of the instances where a violent act happened on school property, at least one student knew about it, but didn't say anything about it. Dozens of Kansas City area school districts have implemented the Scholastic Crime Stoppers program, a way for students to anonymously report trouble, whether it be vandalism, a student contemplating suicide, or talking about committing a violent act before anyone gets hurt.
The kids, they know things. They know all kinds of information and they hear all kinds of information. And that's kind of why we started at 6th grade level, because they have older siblings and these 6th graders hear things. And, I believe all kids want to do the right thing. They just need a safe way to do it.
Don't miss our upcoming KMBC special report, How Lives Have Been Saved Through Scholastic Crime Stoppers, right here at home.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, KMBC Channel 9, for telling this important Scholastic Crime Stoppers program story. The second core program that we operate is the Metropolitan Community Service Program, which works to connect adjudicated individuals with established partner work sites to fulfill their court-ordered community service. Currently, MCSP works with over 90 court jurisdictions, referring those needing community service supervision to our staff, who then assign those individuals to one of our 20-plus work sites they oversee and then log those hours and report back to the courts. MCSP also coordinates the city's Adopt a Street program. Over 100 businesses, church, and neighborhood groups have volunteered to adopt streets in Kansas City, Missouri. These awesome volunteers are responding to the call and pitching up to clean up our Kansas City community. Let's hear from some of those individuals now.
You know, I really have a love for Armour Boulevard. It's Midtown, it's the middle of Kansas City, and I think it also reflects the diversity of our community.
Try to maintain the property throughout the hospital, the landscape, and as well as doing that out on Lee Summit Road not only helps the campus, but also the neighborhoods that are surround us.
Man, this really does tie into what we want to do as a community of faith, to be able to be a blessing to our community and ultimately be a blessing to our city.
We have probably maybe 15 children, our youth, and that's all we have. And like I said, the rest of us are older still, but that doesn't stop us.
The neighbors get to see that our kids care about their neighborhood and their school. So again, just another aspect of community building. So they get to see us outside of just kids at the school, cleaning up where they actually live and making their property value better.
We have a pretty good group of people basically willing to jump in, volunteer, and to do the initiative.
And I really think it's a low barrier of entry where anyone and everyone, including myself, just one individual, could do something so impactful in this community.
So if you have a group or you just are really invested in your neighborhood, the process for Adopt a Street is very easy, the requirements are very easy, and it only benefits the entire city.
And it makes them very proud, and we see the smiles on their face. Plus, we want to leave something that the children can know to teach their children to keep it clean, keep it safe, keep it healthy. And all in all, we're all happier. We start feeling better. Look how good Town Fork Creek looks now.
Communities thrive, cities thrive, neighborhoods thrive, and ultimately our families thrive.
I think at the end of the day, we all want to have an impact, especially on the neighborhood or community we live in. And I really think it's like waves of change. I think we're all little droplets, and if we all did this, I think we would see our entire community change for the better.
Street volunteers, and thank you for the positive impact you have in Kansas City. 20 years ago, the Kansas City Crime Commission recognized the need to support the families left behind when first local responders give their lives in the line of duty. That's when we started the Surviving Spouse and Family Endowment Fund, or the SAFE program as it is widely known. SAFE provides immediate and ongoing financial support in a 12-county coverage area to the families of local police officers, firefighters, and emergency service personnel who are killed or suffer catastrophic injuries in the line of duty. Since its inception, SAFE has paid over $770,000 in benefits to 44 families, including 33 children. Today, we pause to remember and honor all of our fallen first responders, including those we have lost this year. Please honor me in remembering Kansas City, Missouri Officer James Mulbauer, killed in the line of duty February 15th, along with his canine, Champ. Also, Fairway Police Officer Jonah Oswald, killed in the line of duty on August 7th. Thank you. For nearly 2 decades, the SAFE program has hosted the Kansas City Guns and Hoses event, where our law enforcement officers, firefighters, and EMTs courageously climb into the boxing ring in support of their fallen brothers and sisters. This year, for the first time in the history of our SAFE program, 2 of our Guns and Hoses boxers lost fellow officers from their home agency. Let's hear from them now.
Fairway Police Officer Jonah Oswald is still on the minds of so many in our community.
Yeah, the 29-year-old shot and killed in the line of duty. Oswald leaves behind a wife and 2 young children. He served with the Fairway Police Department for 4 years. He was also a veteran who served in the Army Reserves.
He picked up the poster and voiced that he wanted to do it.
Initially, it was we're gonna go into it together.
Guns and Hoses supports families of our first responders killed or permanently disabled in the line of duty. The boxing match features police, firefighters, and EMS.
I feel honored and blessed to have been a part of Guns and Hoses because I was able to contribute towards an organization who was so willingly and ready to help out his family when he did end up having to make that sacrifice. How could he have known? He was there at Guns and Hoses, supporting me that day, that evening. And I think about it, the slideshow of all the fallen first responders and of the thousands of first responders, who could have thought, how could I have known, how could he have known that he was going to be the next one,
All the other people around that, SAFE, you, all the sponsors that made it possible, that all we had to do was go box, and then all those people show up, and they're sponsoring us, and they're sponsoring the tables, and they're donating money, and they're yelling, they're screaming, they're cheering. It takes the whole team. It takes the boxers to sign up for just the physical part, but then without everybody else, there would not be Guns and Hoses.
Seeing the amount of support too, just seeing the crowd, the amount of people there, that was overwhelming in itself. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like, okay, there are people out there in our corner that want to help, that care about us. And that even highlighted more for me that this is way bigger than me, man.
When James was killed, I was explaining to them that, hey, why I'm boxing is for this reason exactly.
I would tell people that if they have the opportunity to be a part of it, the feeling that I have right now, and I'll carry the rest of my life, knowing that I was able to contribute that small percentage towards it, help raise money, right? Help spread awareness. To be sitting here seeing and having seen the fruition of all that hard work, it's invaluable. I mean, there's no words to describe that. And I would tell people if they're looking for something to be a part of that's bigger than them, this the SAFE program, Guns and Hoses, is a great way to go.
Wow. Thank you to all of you who have attended, all of you who have boxed, and all of you who have supported the Guns and Hoses event in the past. And a special thank you to those who have boxed, especially Mission Officer Victor Butrego, who is here with us today. Thank you, Victor. Please mark Saturday, June 22nd, 2024 on your calendar for the next Guns and Hoses event at Municipal Auditorium. And as Victor put it so meaningfully in his video, let's all plan to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And finally, our fourth program, beginning in 2008, is the Second Chance Risk Reduction Center. Since 2008, Second Chance has helped thousands of formerly incarcerated individuals to become self-sufficient and productive members of our community. Second Chance provides the resources to help those individuals overcome common barriers, reduce recidivism, and instill hope and lasting change that has generational impact on many, many families. Not just for those families who are incarcerated, but for those families who are potential victims. The Second Chance program is making a difference in the lives of returning citizens. The state of Missouri's recidivism rate is at 44%. Second Chance program recidivism rate since 2013 is less than 5%. And listen to this year in 2023, our recidivism rate is less than 1%. This impact, again, is generational, as you will hear from one of our Second Chance program graduates now.
My name is George Bolton. I'm from Kansas City, born and raised. Well, before I even came home, I already had it set in my mind that I needed and wanted to do things different than I had done in the past. And, I knew what I wanted to do. I had an idea how to get there, but Second Chance supported me and gave me guidance. I got gainful employment. I obtained my CDLAs. I have a job driving. I'm glad to say today that I'm in a much better place than I even thought I would be.
We just work with people that are trying to do something different for themselves. We're working with this high-risk population. Between violent crimes and drugs and theft and weapons, we're helping everyone that wants to access help. They don't want to live in poverty. They don't want to be in this intergenerational incarceration cycle.
I lost close family members. My wife had passed away. I had a daughter out there. When I was away from her, I thought about my daughter every day, especially after her mother passed. From that loss, a lot of things that I would consider the old me, passed away along with that. So in losing things, you got to try to replace it with something better. That was my motivation, the better me, be a better father.
It's family reunification, it's self-sustaining housing, it's financial responsibility, it's staying sober and having positive support systems in the community as well. Second Chance is looking to expand our capacity so that we can do more. What we know is there are 4,000 individuals returning to the Kansas City metro area every year from incarceration, and we contract to serve no fewer than 210, but it's often about 250 clients each year. We want to do more. And the only way we can do that is with support from the community and additional funds to do so.
Yeah, I would like to see Second Chance have the opportunity to do bigger and better things in the community, because I feel like they're a type of organization that would actually benefit Kansas City in doing that. I've accomplished some things, and I couldn't have done without them. I'm most proud of seeing my daughter's face. When she asks for something or needs something, I'm actually able to give it to her or do it. That's everything. I thought a lot about the legacy I want to leave, and she's a big part of that. Not just her, just the influence I want to have on people who's not just, people who's come from where I come from, people from Kansas City.
Thank you. We are very proud of George Bolton and all of the Second Chance graduates who've worked so very hard to overcome barriers and return to become productive citizens of our community. We'd also like to thank two very important sponsors for Second Chance who have been with us for a long term, helping support and underwrite that program: J.E. Dunn Construction Company and McCarthy Auto Group. Thank you. And in this group of individuals, if you're looking for ways to become involved, we're always looking for jobs. We're always looking for opportunities for our returning citizens to be able to have a place that has a job that provides a life-sustaining wage. So keep that in mind. As you've heard in the last couple minutes, the Crime Commission does a lot of things for a staff of 16 full-time people. It does a lot with little. Couldn't ask for a better group of colleagues to work with. They're phenomenal, each and every one of them. I'd like them to stand and be recognized. All of you, I'll wait here till you get up. And I'm sure Tammy Holtis, who does all this, is behind stage, so make sure you tell her thanks. And now back to Laura. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Okay. It is now time to salute some of our finest and present the Crime Commission's annual awards. We start with the William Dunn Sr. Award. It is named after William Dunn Sr., who helped found the Second Chance program. Mr. Dunn Sr., who, by the way, celebrated 100 years, his 100th birthday this past July, has been a Crime Commission board member and active supporter for many years. The William Dunn Sr. Award is presented each year to an individual who has successfully navigated re-entry, or an individual or business who has supported the Second Chance program. And the 2023 William Dunn Senior Award winner is Cannabis Markets. Cannabis founder Maxfield Kanigher recognized that food insecurity disproportionately impacts low-income people of color in our Kansas City community. The lack of nearby grocery stores and limited transportation resources left many people without access to any nourishing food. Kanigher went to work identifying hundreds of locally owned convenience stores, gas stations, and corner shops with deep ties to the community. And in 2018, he established the first healthy corner store location and began to sell fresh and affordable fruits and vegetables. Today, Cannabis' delivery team visits its more than 40 health corner store locations every day of the week to provide fresh food access within walking distance to thousands of residents on the east side of Kansas City, Missouri. Cannabis Market has become an important resource partner for the Second Chance program. At the Second Chance quarterly Welcome Back sessions, Cannabis Markets hands out fresh fruits and vegetables to many of those who have lived off high-starch diets while incarcerated, thereby working to improve and empower individuals to nourish their bodies with healthier choices. Last December, Cannabis also helped make the Second Chance programs Home for the Holidays a successful event, as the holidays can be a very difficult time for individuals returning from incarcerations. But Cannabis' efforts to partner with Second Chance go beyond feeding people. Cannabis Markets is willing to hire Second Chance participants and provide opportunities for them to become productive and self-efficient in society and have a rewarding career to eliminate food insecurity and food deserts in Kansas City and beyond. Cannabis Markets is truly making a difference in the lives of our citizens who are often forgotten, including those returning from incarceration. The Crime Commission salutes one of our finest, the 2023 William H. Dunn Senior Award winner, Maxfield Kanigher, and Cannabis Markets. Before we present our next award, we'd like to take a moment to recognize the individual that this award is named after. Alvin Brooks was one of Kansas City's only black police officers in the 1950s and the first black department head in the Kansas City government. Brooks founded the ad hoc group, was a former Crime Commission board member, and is still a valued voice as an honorary member of the board. Mr. Brooks is here with us today, and so I'd like to invite Alvin up. In recognizing our very own treasure, please give Alvin a big round of applause. The Alvin Brooks Award is presented to someone who exemplifies the spirit of supporting law enforcement while always striving to make Kansas City a better place for all to live, do business, and to visit. The 2023 Alvin Brooks Award winner is Major Kari Thompson with the Kansas City Police Department. Thompson graduated from the Police Academy 20 years ago in June of 2003. She was promoted to Patrol Sergeant in November of 2011 and served with the Special Victims Unit and as a Public Information Officer in the Media Unit. Promoted to Captain of the Kansas City Police Department in May 2018, Thompson was the first African-American female to hold this honor. In 2021, Thompson was promoted to Major and assigned to lead the East Patrol Division, where she has earned the trust of that community. Last December, she was chosen to lead KCPD's new Community Engagement Division. This division was created to meet the citizens of Kansas City, Missouri, where they are, with care and concern, and strengthen KCPD's community bonds and relationships. Major Thompson's role is to bring a deliberate focus and guidance to all officers within KCPD who are serving people with mental illnesses, people who are in need of social service resources, and landlords and tenants at rental properties who may need help to reduce crime and create a safer place to live. It's a big calling, but in short, Major Thompson has been responding to this call from the moment she set foot in the Kansas City Police Department office. Her welcoming spirit and her willingness to go above and beyond the call of duty sets her apart and makes her an excellent recipient of the 2023 Alvin Brooks Award. So please join the Crime Commission as we salute one of our finest, Major Kari Thompson. The 2023 Greater Kansas City Crime Stoppers Officer of the Year Award goes to an officer at the city, county, state, or federal level who is not above the rank of sergeant or supervisor. The officer that receives this honor each year must have earned the respect of his or her peers and must show ongoing awareness of the problems facing the community he or she serves. And here to help present this award is Crime Stoppers Advisory Board Chair, Dave LeMaster. You're so quiet. Well, okay, there we go. Just want to make sure. The 2023 Greater Kansas City Crime Stoppers Officer of the Year is Officer Tyree Carner and his canine, Shiloh. A native of Hays, Kansas, ATF Special Agent Tyree Carner served 4 years active duty in the United States Air Force from 1995 to 1999. He went on to work, oh sweetheart, 9 years for the Montgomery, Alabama Police Department, where he spent time as a patrol officer, a canine handler, and a violent crimes detective. During this time, he obtained undergraduate and graduate degrees from Auburn University of Montgomery and Troy University. Special Agent Carner then joined the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives in May of 2008, where for the last 15 years, he has spent most of that time assigned to the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department's Career Criminal Squad and the ATF Kansas City, Missouri Illegal Firearms Squad. Special Agent Carner began working with his ATF Explosives Detection Canine, Shiloh, in 2019, and Shiloh's job is to find explosives, guns, and ammunition. Since Canine Shiloh's inception with Special Agent Carner, they have, well, they're compatible, as you can tell, and incredible, and they have completed 808 evidentiary searches. Over a third of them have been homicide related. So this docile creature is very hardworking. They have been present on numerous crime scenes in the Kansas City metropolitan area, assisting in the recovery of ballistic evidence related to acts of violence committed with firearms. Together they work as a team to assist the homicide unit for the Kansas City Police Department and various assault squads to recover firearms and other ballistic evidence such as bullet fragments and shell casings. Most Missouri Department investigation units know Special Agent Carner and Shiloh by name, as he is always willing to help complete an investigation resulting from the criminal use of a firearm. He and Shiloh worked tirelessly day and night, 7 days a week, almost every week of the year. They provide a service to our community that is hard to replicate. They give investigations a higher chance to succeed and victims a better chance for answers and the outcome they deserve. His work ethic, his dedication to the call of duty, and his commitment to this community make Special Agent Corner and Shiloh very deserving recipients of the 2023 Greater Kansas City Crime Stoppers Officer of the Year Award. So please join me as we salute actually two of our finest, Special Agent Tyree Corner and Shiloh. ASIS Representative Jared Oakton is here to help us present our final award this afternoon. It is the Clarence M. Kelly Award. The nominees each year for this prestigious award represent the best of the best in executive level law enforcement in the Kansas City area. The Kansas City chapter of ASIS has sponsored the Clarence M. Kelly Award since 1980 and selected the year's top law enforcement executive from the 9 counties that make up the KC Metro. The 2023 Clarence M. Kelly Award winner is Chief Dale Finger, Leawood Police Department. Chief Dale Finger has spent 50 years in law enforcement, a large percentage of that time in a leadership role. Chief Finger joined the Leawood Police Department in February 2006 after more than 32 years with the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. Chief Finger started with the Kansas Bureau of Investigation as a narcotics investigator, and after 15 years, he was promoted to be the Narcotics Division Supervisor. Then a year later, in 1989, he was named Associate Director, second in command of this statewide agency. After stepping down from the KBI, Chief Finger wanted to continue his law enforcement career and joined the Leawood Police Department command staff as a Captain Division Commander. He supervised each of the agency's 3 divisions prior to being sworn in as the city's 10th police chief on September 20th, 2021. Throughout his career with Leawood PD, he has continuously demonstrated innovative leadership by supporting advancements in law enforcement technology, implementing the new 9-hour work schedule, and leading an effort to revise and streamline the hiring practices to better address staff shortages. Chief Finger has a bachelor's degree from Washburn University and a master's degree from the University of Kansas. He is a graduate of the 173rd session of the FBI National Academy. So please join the Crime Commission as we salute one of our finest, Chief Dale Finger of the Leawood Police Department. If the chief wanted to say anything, he said, no, I get that a lot. Mitch Holtis is one of the only 3 individuals to be inducted into both the Kansas Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame and the Missouri Broadcasters Hall of Fame, the 4th longest tenured play-by-play team voice in the NFL, and in my opinion, the best. He's now in his 30th season as voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. Here today to lead the Q&A with our special guest speaker, please welcome Mitch Holtis.
Thanks, Laura, and good afternoon. I'll ask you, where were you? Where were you when this happened? If we got in a time machine and went back to this point, most of you remember exactly where you were. Some of you were put on high alert. Some were on active duty. But we didn't know why it happened. It was the worst day of terrorism in our country's history to date. Who did it, and what was our response going to be? Someone had to answer the call.
The Taliban must turn over Osama bin Laden and must destroy the terrorist camps. Otherwise, there will be a consequence.
We were America's response to the most catastrophic terrorist attack on U.S. soil ever.
Took a deep breath. I'm about to go into battle. My wife knew we were going to go, but she didn't know where. I didn't know where we were going.
Helicopter takes off. Dust kind of settles, and out of the dust comes the sand people. When you see a man with an AK who is dressed just like your enemy, you have no idea whether he's going to put out his hand and shake it or he's going to shoot you.
Everything else I'd done in the Army hadn't been all that hard. I figured, how hard could it be? It was pretty hard.
Back and forth, not knowing if you're going to come home. Somebody else getting killed.
We're just trying to live.
Something just didn't feel quite right about it. It almost promoted the promiscuous use of military power.
I would give everything back. All the promotions, all the recognition, all the medals. Everything that I have for none of this to ever have happened.
You know, you go and you do stuff that's crazy. Then when you're done, they just tell you bye.
Every time they leave and they come back, they're a little bit different each time.
Each one of our stories are similar. How we isolated ourselves, our family, everything else. The only way we're all going to heal each other is to get back together.
We had a responsibility to people that died. You just don't do that to America and not pay the price. It was about justice.
This is the first letter I received from him. This has been the hardest trip. I just didn't want to leave you and the kids.
That mission was the pinnacle of our career.
These are my 11 best friends in the world.
All right, one for the Brotherhood.
These guys on your left and right, they will always be there.
On a day where we honor women and men who have to answer the call, take on the task, complete the mission, and do so at great sacrifice, today you have the epitome of that. Now, we love our Chiefs heroes, right? But then there are heroes from the Chiefs kingdom. Mark Nutsch grew up in Washington County, Kansas, just about a little over 2 hours west of St. Joseph on US Highway 36. Mark was riding horses before he went to kindergarten on the cattle ranch in Washington County. Little did he know what that would lead to. He went to K-State. He was in ROTC on the rodeo team. Little did he know what that would lead to. He became Special Forces, Green Beret, the best of the best. And he didn't know what that would lead to until he answered the call. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome, we are blessed today to have with us our own horse soldier, the team leader of ODA 595, the first boots on the ground to answer those terrorist attacks, Mark Nutsch. We're going to try to do this in truncated version, but it's why you need this book. And it's why I'm going to use it as my holiday gift giving this year, because this book is fascinating and remarkable and gets into this guy's heart. But first, we're going to ask you about the call. This happens. What about your training? Did you think you'd get the call? And walk us through the very genesis of your mission.
Well, first I want to say it's an honor to be here with this distinguished group here today. Just thank you so much for inviting me to be a small part of this. I grew up in Kansas Cattle Ranch, World War II veteran grandparents. When I got commissioned from Kansas State, Went into active duty in the infantry, went through Ranger School, became a platoon leader at the 101st Airborne briefly. Then I volunteered for Special Forces, or first Special Operations Unit was to go into the Rangers. And honored to serve there as a platoon leader again. And then that was my introduction to our Special Operations community for the Army. And I wanted to be a part of that. I want to serve with the men and women that are in that command that have such a strategic mission. And so I volunteered for Special Forces. 25 to 50% of the candidates that go through selection make that. I just, a little stubborn, refused to quit, saw people that I thought were gonna make it that didn't, you know. But everything I'd had in my career, when I got to Special Forces, then I had half a dozen deployments to the Middle East with my team prior to 9/11, and just went through some of that training. That team that I had was just an incredible senior group of guys.
This is a story of bravery and miracles. Your team of 12, it's interesting, 11 of your 12 were married when you got the call to go. What about the makeup of your team, because they all had families to say goodbye to basically overnight?
Yeah, I think like 9 of the couples had 2 or more kids. The guy's average age was 32 at the time of that mission. We averaged 8 years in service already in the Army. 5 out of the 12 guys were already Special Forces combat veterans. Just had some pretty tough training exercises that we'd been on, experiences that we had had, particularly in 2000. Our team was one of the first to spend nearly 6 months in the country of Uzbekistan and working with their Spetsnaz, their special forces, that were already in a tough fight with an al-Qaeda affiliate and a terror group that had been conducting large-scale attacks in that country through 98, 99, and 2000. And we anticipated that there was going to be another series of attacks. So as expected, there was a large coordinated attack that kicked off across the country in 2000. This is in Uzbekistan. And our partner force that we'd been training went off to fight. But I guess what I want to impart is I watched that allied country. Can you imagine having to deal with committed, organized, highly trained terrorists that are 10 to 20 man groups that are attacking their communities? But then they were synchronized and coordinated with other groups, estimated over 200, that conducted coordinated attacks across that country. So it was overwhelming their local police and security forces at every level. But we saw how their interagencies all had to come together to try to work through that.
When did you get, hey, you're going, and did you know where you were going? And walk us through that.
Yeah, so as a Special Forces detachment commander, as a captain, you typically get 1 to 2 years in command. My 2 years was up September 10th, and moved into a staff officer position, and watched 9/11, perhaps like many of you, from home. Had 2 young stepsons, 4 and 3 years old, and my wife, Amy, was a high-risk pregnancy with our first daughter. I'd like to recognize that Amy's here, if she would please stand. So we're getting the call. We're in a Babies R Us in Nashville, and September 14th, and I get a phone call from my team sergeant, and he gives me the brevity words to return back to the unit and bring all my gear. And I get a second phone call like a minute later from my new boss that echoes the same thing: get back here and report to the commander. So I let out a hoot and a holler, and I'm going to war with my brothers.
The first miracle is the insertion.
So
17 October 2001, the 160th prepares to infiltrate 2 Special Forces A teams to join with Northern Alliance fighters and coordinate their attacks. Each team is a regionally oriented multilingual unit consisting of 12 highly skilled soldiers who are cross-trained and extremely adaptable.
Okay, Okay, where are you going? I mean, it's reading the book. It's a miracle you guys didn't crash before you even got drunk.
Yeah, all of that, even to get there. So September 14th, we were informed that we were going to be the first 12-man team to deploy out of our unit out of 45 teams at the time. There's no playoffs. It's the Super Bowl. You're in it, life and death. Didn't fully know what the mission was going to be as we deployed out to Uzbekistan. And the mission we knew would be unconventional warfare, to work with particular leaders that we had identified on the ground. We have very smart sergeants in the Special Forces. And right after 9/11, it may shock you to know, there was not an existing contingency plan. So we are building this whole response literally in flight. And we submit our questions up, as you would expect. Tell me about the situation. None of those answers are coming back, so we are reading on our own and studying literally tourist road maps about the people, the geography, the geology, where we're going to be fighting, trying to understand who's who very quickly. But we knew we'd be fighting with a militia force, most likely to help arm and equip them as a force multiplier. And we managed to do that quite effectively with our CIA teammates. But the insertion, as they got us in there, we didn't figure out we were going to be riding horseback until 48 hours before getting on a helicopter. We broke a few rules on our mission planning cycle. It's typically a 96-hour period. By the time we received the mission, we had 48 hours before we were going to get on the helicopter and be flown in. 4.5 hours to get us in there. Incredible feat from our special operations aviators, from the Night Stalkers from the 160th. They're the best men and women. They're the helicopter pilots in the world. And they took that helicopter higher than it's supposed to go over the mountains and got us in there safely.
We transition now to the mission. You're boots on the ground. Here you are. First of all, in the book, Lieutenant Colonel Mulholland says, "I don't expect to see you again." When you looked Amy in the eyes, were you guys thinking, when you're getting dropped, this could be a suicide mission?
Yeah, so little known as we deployed out. We had multiple false starts in saying our goodbyes to the family and the kids, and then the plane doesn't come, and then a few hours later, you're coming back home. So there's this roller coaster of emotion back and forth. By the third time, the wives were pretty much, "Y'all just need to go." But that was stressful, definitely. Some of the teams were not comfortable with the mission, and there actually was a team that briefed and said that this is a suicide mission, sir. We don't know enough information. That team was out. Our team was asked if we could do the mission, and of course we said yes, because we'd been preparing for it. So it was kind of the differences in that team and the level of training and the risks that they were comfortable with. But yeah, you have to have a long look in the mirror at some life choices that have put you there. We're blessed to do it. Our team had volunteered to a man. We let our chain of command know, "Send me, send us. We can do this." The confidence that we had is why we were given the opportunity.
You'll see it in the book. You quote the scripture, "Here am I, send me." And your team said, "Let's go." And then you said, "Let wisdom be my guide. Let courage fill my heart." You had to somehow coordinate the Northern Alliance. Now, that was easier said than done.
At 0200 hours, the unarmed MH-47 drops ODA 595 at LZ Albatross. Through the night, Tiger II waits for General Dostum. He is known as a brutal warlord who has made and broken alliances with many factions. What will the morning bring? The answer comes in a burst of hoofbeats.
First, about 20 horsemen came galloping up. They're armed to the teeth, looking pretty rough. The heavy beards, your typical Soviet small arms. It's what they possessed: light machine guns, AK-47s, RPGs, and about 10 minutes behind them, another 30 horsemen arrived with General Dostum.
To their relief, They receive a warm welcome and follow the horsemen to Dostum's headquarters, a 4-hour ride deep into the mountains. Only one member of ODA 595 is an experienced rider.
It was an incredible, we were going up stuff that, a foot wide, you're 1,000 feet up on a cliff that you knew if you fell, you were dead.
This was our first chapter in the Wild Wild West events that we would participate in every day.
So Dostum's guys are, you're thinking friend or foe, right?
Right. The information we were given about General Dostum was not what we found to be on the ground. The military gave us one picture about his background, and then they introduced us to a CIA team that we were able to meet with and ask them a few questions, and they were like, oh no, he's ready to meet you, and we're going to call him in a couple hours on a satellite phone. And that's when we learned that we were going to be riding horses. But back in 2001, none of our special operators were being trained in how to ride horseback. It's the 21st century, right? Who's going to go to war on that? But so it's just by pure fate. I had that background. One of the guys on my team grew up in South Dakota. But as we learned that, Chief and my team sergeant came to me and they're like, hey, sir, we got this. We've had quarter horse training when Mom and Dad took us to the Kmart and threw some quarters in the mechanical machine. We got this. But the very first morning in there, 6 of us would mount horses for the first time. And, I'm figuring it out. It was just my background, and I studied some Civil War battles and about the cavalry on both sides, and out here at Fort Riley, the Frontier Cavalry Museum, and about the cavalry on American West as that was opening. So we're figuring it out. And there was no doctrine. We're figuring out things like, how do you carry a rifle on a stallion that wants to kill you? What gear do you keep on your body? What do I leave behind? Can I trust the guys next to me that are our security force? They warn us that the enemy's in the area. There were mines, all kinds of obstacles. The guys did an incredible job learning how to ride day and night, like something out of a Western movie I'd watched, growing up. But they ride stallions culturally, so when you get a bunch of horses together, they're going to fight for who's in charge and other things. Came safety risk. We rode their local saddles, and so we're breaking gear, and we're using our field craft from parachute drops that are bringing in lethal, non-lethal aid, humanitarian aid, medical supplies each night. We're using the parachute webbing to repair saddles, cinches, and parachute cord to make any number of repairs.
And Dostum was giving you his best horses, right?
Yeah, they did not give us the best horses. I've learned that at team ropings around here or helping some neighbors gather. If you're new to the group, they may not give you the good horse. So they made great sport out of giving us some of the ranker horses. And I wish I had a video camera. We called it the Buck Out Show every morning. We started around 8,000 foot elevation, several hundred horses, and they're picketed out at night. They would fight during the night, and then as you got to get up in the morning, it's a little frosty, you're saddling up, and right as you'd go to step up, whether you're an Afghan or an American, that stallion would just come uncorked and start bucking out through the group, and guys got thrown off, and I never got thrown off. Yes, I did, but I was scored a 99. That was. But the guys got back on. They just did an amazing job.
The book will tell you. They almost got killed in this. All right, there's a look at the country when they got dropped down as far as what the mission was in front of them. And this was a ruthless enemy, Al-Qaeda and Taliban. And if you look at the movie, the way they oppress women, the way they abuse women, the scene where they murder the mother in front of the children after saying they did not want the women to be educated. You're dealing with a ruthless enemy, but now it's not just Dostum. What was the key in getting Dostum and some of his rivals to be a unified team?
Yeah, so we started to learn about General Dostum, leader of the Uzbeks, Commander Atta, leader of the Tajiks, and Commander Mokek, leader of the Hazara faction. They each had suffered, because they were a minority ethnic population, they each had suffered under the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and their harsh interpretation of Islam. But they each had been independently fighting, and we met with each of those leaders. We got them to come together with our CIA teammates. We got them to come together in the, let's call it the Marriott Downtown of Northern Afghanistan for a couple days. They all brought 100 of their closest heavily armed friends, and we did not know the history of rivalries or alliances, the family relations, the who's who in the room. But by getting them together, they recognized that they were stronger together. We got them to agree to cooperate and rise up and orchestrate an uprising about 10 days later across all 6 of the northern provinces. By uniting those 3 factions, from day one, we had 300 horsemen that we could count. 10 days later, we had nearly 3,000 horsemen that we could account for. And by bringing the 3 faction leaders together, those other 2 factions, now we have a militia force of over 5,000 fighters that they pledged and that we could count across the northern provinces. So helping to arm and equip them with lethal, non-lethal aid, and it is a fire hose of information from those local leaders that are helping us to answer all the questions, and we're sending up countless reports each night through the CIA and the military channels to tell them what could be done.
So just like our folks we're honoring today in law enforcement, there's always a asset allocation. What do we have for assets? Now, let's look at your asset allocation at the screen of what you're taking into this battle against and the response, but what did you have at your disposal?
You know, we have a 19th century force on horseback, essentially. They're armed with the 20th century weapons you hear so much about from the Soviets. That AK-47, they have Soviet machine guns. Their heaviest weapon was a rocket grenade launcher. Our team brings in the 21st century technology. We have satellite-capable radios. Eventually, we get 5 of them. That allowed me to talk to our commander 200 miles away in another country. It allowed me to talk to Fort Campbell's logistical coordinators about here's what I need and get that move in our direction, and allowed me to talk to the generals down in Tampa, Florida. Eventually, we would get 5 of those radios, and we would split our team into 4 3-man cells, and we'd put 3 guys out with an Afghan partner force between 300 and 750 fighters. We'd put them in another county, and one of my sergeants and I would ride back and forth between them. But the other piece of equipment we had, anybody remember back in 2001, a little company called Garmin? New to the shooting and hunting outdoor world was the Garmin GPS Vista, and we loved that little device. It run on AA batteries, but we were so far left in this, they couldn't even give us the topographical data layer to load into the device. So Etch-a-Sketch, I'm sure you remember that, Mitch. You're older than I. So you're getting to make your own map, basically, and that little device was invaluable for every guy on my team to map out enemy positions and drop zones and river crossings and trailheads and where we were hiding equipment. But that was some of the technology that we could directly bring to bear besides our knowledge of combined arms warfare and unconventional warfare.
We have Garmin here today, I think. Where's our friends from Garmin who have come a long way since that time in 2001? It's not only your asset allocation, what are you up against? And in a way, you were throwing clods at shotguns. Look at what you're up against here and what the enemy hit.
Yeah, this is the enemy force. So we're outnumbered, we're outgunned. The Taliban and Al-Qaeda have all the heavy weapons, the more modern, motorized, mechanized, the tanks, the towed artillery, and the anti-aircraft guns that did not have radar, fortunately. And then, yes, they surprised us with that multiple rocket launcher. But as we united those factions to orchestrate that uprising, the Taliban kept massing against us in that series of valleys. And the 6 of my sergeants and I that had first split out and observed and went into battle with our allies, we realized we got to split again. And 3 of my sergeants volunteered to go deeper into the enemy rear area, right? We knew that logistics is their Achilles heel, and they patiently watched a tank withdraw from the kind of frontline trace, and they tracked it back to basically the fuel depot. and we were able to strip the fuel away from them, and we knew that eventually those armored vehicles would run out of fuel.
Wow. Let's go into the coordination and why you were so successful, and why, again, this is a miracle and one of America's greatest military stories that hasn't been told very much. Why were you guys so successful?
We were successful because, I think just because of the guys, their level of training, that team was at our peak game at 9/11. Like a lot of teams, you go through a rebuilding cycle, and that's where our team was at. We'd been together for over 2 years, the core of us, with some of our specialty skills training. We'd had some very tough training exercises in the U.S. and in the Middle East prior to 9/11, where we cross-trained our guys. So they have specialties in weapons, communications, medical, engineering, explosives, but regardless if that was your primary skill, we would cross-train, and you had to demonstrate. Every guy had to be able to put those radios into operation, treat a casualty. It was a given that we could shoot. But we trained our guys in tough conditions where it may be a singleton that we sent out, or a 2-man, 3-man responding to something, or 6 or 12 of us. But really, we use centralized planning, decentralized execution. Every guy understands the rules of engagement, his left and right limits. Everybody understands the commander's intent, 1 and 2 levels, 3 levels up. So that as you're decentralized that, we're really trusting and empowering every guy on the team to be responsible for his area, to make those decisions. It tested me, it tested all of the guys on our team in that way, but really holding the young sergeants accountable. We would sit down after every engagement. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What nearly killed us today? How do we make sure that that does not happen again? You know, my main mission was General Dostum. Get to understand him. What can we do? His strengths, weaknesses. What can his force do? He's the subject matter expert on the ground. He's had decades of warfare. He's a survivor. They understood the history. They're telling us the history every day of that region. You know, and we're working closely with our CIA partners. It didn't matter whether you were a senior CIA officer or a junior sergeant in Special Forces. We're all Americans. They've attacked the homeland. We are the tip of the spear for America's response, and we are very united. Didn't matter what agency, didn't matter what our authorities were. We understood, here's your permissions and authorities from the CIA side, here's ours from the military, and we'd be co-located and interdependent throughout the entirety of that mission. I'm watching General Dostum build collaborative relationships with the factions that are rallying around him. They're riding from hundreds of miles away. They recognize that the time was now to rise up and fight against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and change the fate of their country and their region, even if that turned out to be temporary. But then we're having to build collaborative partnerships with an aerial armada of aircraft overhead. We had every manner of aircraft from all the services come in there except for the vaunted A-10. I know I believe our Topeka, Kansas Air National Guard refuelers were involved in that. We had 2 aircraft carriers flying in support of us, Naval and Marine Corps aviators coming off of that, Air Force pilots coming out of the Gulf Coast countries. Those aircraft run out of fuel in 90 to 120 minutes. So they have to get gas 2 to 3 times just to get to us, employ their munitions 2 to 3 times to get back on the deck of that aircraft carrier. You know, so their fuel gauge is on empty, and Marine Corps pilots especially were stressed out because they're out of crayons. But any Marine Corps veterans in the room? 1 or 2? The Air Force pilots, they're anxious to get back too because they're playing golf, you know. So, but we had Cold War bomber like depicted there, a B-52. They have an 18-hour round trip, and our team probably still holds a record. We employed over 300 airstrikes in 24 days, and are credited with destroying the Taliban Army of the North that was in the thousands with their heavy vehicles and equipment. Liberated countless villages along the way as we went. But that was collaborative partnerships at all different levels.
The 190th, the Kansas Coyotes, the refuelers, I know the C-130s in St. Joseph, and Whiteman Air Force.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for reminding me on that. Yeah, so we had Cargo aircraft coming in every night. The Special Operations C-130s are dropping specialty items like horse feed for our army of horsemen, because you were overwhelming the local communities, local co-op, with the needs for grain and everything else, and just any kind of food supplies. And you don't want to take that away from the community. So airdropping in everything every night. The guys are running their own drop zones to support their own force in the different counties, basically. But then, yeah, we had I learned about this later, right? Because they're just a call sign to us on the radio, a voice on the radio. And after a few days, you got to learn the same call signs, and so I was fortunate to meet a number of those pilots later. But I also, this last November, last year rather, at the Kansas City Speedway, I was able to meet some of the B-2 pilots out of Missouri here. And who else but America could do that? Those pilots left Missouri, aerial refueled, over the Atlantic, over to Europe, check in with my team in the mountains of Afghanistan, drop their ordnance where we need them to, and they keep going and aerial refuel over the Indian Ocean and Pacific and land 24 hours later in Missouri.
Here's what happened. We know there were other attacks planned, the impact on the northern provinces, but here's what our host soldiers did, because they put Osama bin Laden and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda on the run. Well, how long was the mission? In the book, it talks about it being like, what, a 6-month mission?
Yeah, they didn't expect to see us for 6 months. Go winter up in the mountains, develop this force. In the spring, we want you to come out of the mountains and help support the Army and Marine Corps with their operations into the major cities. But our allies were not going to wait. They knew that they had the world's attention for 9/11. For them, it was a saving grace. It got the world's attention and resources and everything that we represented of the U.S. government in the form of a CIA team and a team of Green Berets on the ground. We got a handful of other teams in there as we united those factions. That's the real magic of what we did. But then with that uprising, after 24 days on horseback, we liberated the main city of Mazar-i-Sharif and the 6 northern provinces. But then our warfare mode, our transportation changed very quickly to now we have ATVs and pickup trucks, and our militia army of thousands of horsemen now has the Soviet tanks and artillery. So it's a whole different logistical challenge very quickly. We kept our task organization where our 3 guys would be matched with different commanders, but now we got to get fuel and spare parts and the right ammunition, and we had another 45 days of combat operations kind of mopping up and trying to keep the peace between the factions in the northern provinces. But that effort, liberating those 6 northern provinces, emboldened other factions to rise up and fight across the country, and half a dozen other teams were sent in to work with them in an unprecedented historic event and strategy, having CIA and Special Forces paired as the initial response to 9/11. Within less than 90 days, with less than 100 American Green Berets on the ground, we toppled their government and put Al-Qaeda on the run. By the 5th of December, most of the friendly areas had returned to militia, friendly forces control. None of us ever thought we'd be there for 20 years.
God, you get this done from mid-October to 5 December, another miracle here, but it did not come without sacrifice. In the book, it's riveting, where guys are telling you, call your wife, call your wife. Amy's here. Why were they telling you, call your wife?
So the night before we were to kick off the uprising across the provinces, and we've got a battle, we've got a fight to our front, I get a message that says, use a satellite phone and call your wife. Well, nobody wants that message ever, right? But I had to wait a little bit because of the time zone change. She'd gone in for an 8-month checkup at the Fort Campbell Hospital, and there was complications, and the doc said, you're having the baby in 2 hours. Don't leave the hospital. So those team wives rallied around her in the delivery room. But tough job, or tough experience on the wives there, right? Most of the wives on that particular team had jobs outside the home, like Amy as a teacher, but then trying to raise a family basically as a single mom for major parts of the year. But what's going on after September 11th, right? Everybody is talking about what's going to happen. So These wives, their coworkers knew that their husbands were in special forces. Hey, what's going on? What's happening? They couldn't even share with their coworkers and some of our family members that we were already gone, and they couldn't say where we had gone anyway. So I get that call. I'm able to call Amy, and she's already home, coming home from the hospital. But towards the end of that mission, we had.
By the way, you have a beautiful. She's now what, 22 years old and flourishing in Omaha. So, a beautiful daughter.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she was almost 3 months old before I got home. But
you got your team back.
Yeah,
got them back.
We got
all
our
12
team
made it back, but then there were some loss.
We lost one of our CIA teammates, Mike Spann, became known as the first American. Mike was a Marine Corps officer that then had left that service and went into the ground branch, the special activities at CIA. And Mike and his teammates were with us the whole time through that mission. Mike was killed by Al-Qaeda terrorists and some things that we didn't recognize that happened very quickly on the battlefield, right? It's changing. You got to be able to recognize the changes that are happening, and we missed some key things, and unfortunately Mike was killed. Less than 2 years later, the 595 team and those half a dozen teams that had been instrumental in spearheading the success in Afghanistan, they spearheaded operations into Iraq. I had moved on to another specialty command, but we lost one of our teammates, our medic, Bill Bennett. He was one of the 3 that were the first guys that we sent out, those first 3 sergeants that volunteered to go deeper. They're my heroes. They gave us the time and space to allow us to unite the factions and orchestrate that uprising and build up that local militia force. But Bill and those guys, they rode away from me with 10 local guys as their security on horseback, and they were 14 days on their own. And they were the ones that got deep into the Taliban rear area, interdicted their reinforcements, prevented them from withdrawing, struck that fuel point, as I said. But
we'll close this way. It's ironic.
I want to close one more thing.
Yes, sir.
We lost a lot of our allies, too, if you would. But we had several hundred of them were killed in the course of that. Hundreds more were injured. And, they had to continue to fight. A number of them went on and were police officers over 20 years or worked in their intelligence services or in their special operations. But tough challenge for those guys because they're fighting the Taliban terrorists, Al-Qaeda, and the other groups, half a dozen that spawned in that. But it's very tough for them as police officers because they live in those communities, right? Americans were coming and going, we're on that sheltered base. These guys had immense challenges to overcome, lack of training, lack of reliability of even getting paid. There is no retirement plan for them. Just a lot of other challenges they had as law enforcement there. But some very brave individuals that served in the Afghan security forces, their police forces. But, I pray that none of those challenges ever come to American shores. But I'm very concerned that it will. And I hope that you folks that are commanders and whatever rank you are on the street, be ready. Be ready. Because I'm concerned that some of that's going to come here to the homeland.
In the book, it talks about the bravery of the Northern Alliance soldiers, which is amazing. It's ironic. Tomorrow morning, I'll be with the team. Chiefs, we're headed to New York City. And, of course, we'll look at the skyline and look at southern Manhattan. At the 9/11 Ground Zero site, there is a monument on the right of the screen that is a monument to America's initial response, the horse soldiers. And that depiction is Mark on a horse. If you ever go to 9/11, to the monument there, make sure you take all of your loved ones there and show them that. One more thing, Mark. I want you to stand right here because, ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to honor those of you who have to face the call, have the mission, the task, and fulfill that mission, and many times at great sacrifice. But we have the epitome of that in this young man and his wife. would you please give a proper acknowledgement of our own horse soldier, Mark Nutsch.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mitch. Some of you have asked about the Horse Soldier bourbon that Mark and some of his ODA 595 brothers are producing. And the story of Horse Soldier bourbon is based on history. It is made by Mark and the guys who answered the call and were on horseback in Afghanistan. Each Horse Soldier bourbon bottle is its own little memorial. The bottle molds were made out of steel from ground zero. Every bottle that goes in these molds will have been touched by the World Trade Center steel. So you can say that these bottles are forged in fire. We thank all of you who are also forged in fire, those who answer the call, have a heart for the mission, respond, encourage, and willingly sacrifice. We thank all of your families as well. I think it'd be appropriate before we leave today to take one last opportunity and salute our finest. So what I'd like to happen right now is all of our veterans, our active duty military, all our retired, former, and current law enforcement officers, please stand so we can give you one final salute.